Welcome back, dear viewers, still watching Cairo local time, and now we are joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon.
So, sir, as we are talking about the U.S.-Africa summit hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden, can you tell us more about the significance of Egypt's participation in this important summit?
Of course, we are African, we are Arabs, we are very near to Europe, we are very close friends to the United States. If you want to come to the Middle East or to Africa, you have to cross by Egypt, otherwise you are wasting your time.
Yes.
I always say that. And now it seems that United States is coming back to Africa, although I know from my experience in Africa that they were a little bit withdrawing from Africa.
Yes.
Africa, it doesn't pay the effort you make in Africa. One ambassador told me that what I do in Africa in the whole year, I can do it in Osaka in Japan in 1 day. So Africa is indebted. Africa is importing much more than it is exporting. Africa is full of problems. So why the Americans are coming back to Africa?
Yes, sir.
It seems this is not an economic decision, it's a political one. China is ahead of us. China agreed to go to Africa in order to establish small and very small projects which is directed to the layman immediately. So China is making some progress in Africa. And now, as you well know, America wouldn't accept that China would be in Africa by itself.
So,
how to do this? By a sort of a conference like that, inviting Egypt. Our experience is much more than anyone else. Our presence in Africa is very wide. We have embassy in every single African country. That's why we are also the most accepted face in Africa. And we can make good use of this. They ask us, they exchange with us views and experience. Africa, thanks to our president, came in the middle, in the heart of our foreign policy. We preside Africa. Our president was the chairman of the African Union in 2019. We represented Africa in the Security Council of the United Nations. So we are back also with the level of the summit, the presidency. We were there as ambassadors, as ministers, but not the president for 20 years before the revolution of 2011. Now our president is everywhere. Thank God that he is covering all these countries. And now we are proud of our activity in Africa. And I hope that we can double it and express our efforts towards our brothers in Africa.
Yes. Also, sir, presidential spokesman said that the president is intending to focus on issues that concern African countries in light of the current international challenges, like ways of confronting food security crisis and facilitating the merge of African countries into the world economy. So how important are those two issues to the African countries?
Yes, by investment.
Yes.
The word is investment. As a matter of fact, 70% of what Africa is using or importing is not produced in Africa at all.
Yes.
While Africa is producing good quality of food, of fruit, of vegetables, of cereals, and we need some African land in order to plant our need of wheat and cereal. I have a small experience there where we went to many African countries, and there are a lot of chances in order to expand our investment there. The problem that, of course, our ways and means of finance is limited. So we have a sort of initiative by our president that we go to Africa to invest with the Egyptian experience, with the donors' money, and on the African land. And China accepted this, European Union accepted this, Japan during the conference of TICAD a couple of years ago accepted the idea. So this is one way in order to bring Africa to be an active member of the international economy.
Yes. So finally, sir, also Biden outlined some $55 billion in U.S. funding planned for Africa over the next 3 years, including $100 million for clean energy. So, sir, how do you see this interest by the United States in the African countries, and how can the African countries utilize all these fundings for development?
This is good news, as a matter of fact, because as I said, one very important factor that we need is finance. Also, I must be honest to you and say that we have a lot of homework to be done as African. Our bureaucracy must be ameliorated. Our banking system is not up to the international level. Our transport means needs to make big effort in order to be much more easier. No ports in Africa can receive big ships. Our airway company does not cover all the African capitals. All of these are our homework. On the other hand, we are asking our donors to give more and more of finance, and this is good news that the United States is giving this 55 million.
Yes. Sir, finally, I'd like to thank you, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you, sir, for Thank you, sir, for being with us. And as I've just mentioned, the Thursday sessions are entitled An Africa of Good Governance, Democracy, Respect for Human Rights, Justice and Rule of Law. And on Wednesday, the U.S. African Business Forum discussed the future of U.S.-Africa trade and investment relations, as well as partnerships to finance the African infrastructure and energy transition. U.S. President Joe Biden also called for a broad partnership with Africa and highlighted new U.S. investments, saying closer ties were crucial in the world. And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of Cairo Local Time, and stay tuned for our coverage to the U.S.-Africa Summit with the participation of President Fattah al-Sisi.